Welcome to another episode of Algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to us already, please hit the subscribe button. Today, my guest is Tausif Ahmed, popularly known as Mr. Rescuer. He is an animal rescuer, an environmental activist, and a published author. Welcome to the show, Tausif.
Thank you, Pratham. Thank you for having me over.
Okay. I want to start by asking you about your book. Is it staying around you or straying around you? Because the R is crossed.
Yes, no, that's the basic trick that was used when the book released. The book is basically called as "Staying Around You."
Okay.
It's basically almost like an autobiography of a stray dog. How a dog is born on the streets as a puppy, and the kind of other animals. The entire journey. The dog himself narrates what he goes through. The other animals he meets, the other humans he meets, good people, bad people. There are incidents whereby he ends up in a shelter due to some issue, and the things that he sees there. A lot of things that are there. But the entire gist of the book is basically that dogs are an integral part of our society. These are basically, in the introduction I mentioned that these are those hi bye friends whom we don't want to bring them home. You just talk to them, you say hi, and you just leave them there itself. So we need to welcome them in our lives. That's the whole gist. So we treat them as strays, but we should start treating them as they are staying around us. They are not straying around us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, man. Looking at the world from a dog's perspective. Yeah, you should have a crazy amount of empathy for that. Yeah, where did your empathy for stray animals begin?
Um, I think it all evolved right from being in school because mom and dad, I was born and brought up in basically called Kudramukh. It's about 100 kilometers from here, Chikmagalur district. My dad used to be a mechanical engineer. He's retired now. So I spent almost about 18 years of my life in Kudramukh. So it was basically a forest, reserved forest, Western Ghats. So every day we would see snakes and so many different birds. We had elephants coming around houses and wild boars very regularly. So on an average, every day we had about 3 to 4 dogs that my mom and dad used to feed, which used to come near our house. All stray dogs itself. They used to sleep near our houses and everything. We used to have cows which come and they would feed some leftover vegetables and everything. There was no veterinary facility available. So every time these guys would end up in some fights or something, turmeric was the only known medication that we knew at that point of time. Apply turmeric on the wound, mix turmeric in milk and give. These are the only things that we knew. So, but I think somewhere down there, me and my sister picked up these things basically from my parents because they always taught us that they are also a part of our own society. Don't throw stones. So we see a lot of kids throwing stones these days, and parents are so proud and happy. Those unfortunate things never happened when we were growing up. So I think that's where it all began. Of course, after moving into Mangalore, it went to a different level now. It has gone to a different level whereby this particular life has taken over my personal life and work life, and so many things have happened. But there's some sort of peace. There's some sort of, I don't know, stability, I would say. This keeps me a little sane. So I think it was all destined. It was all probably destined.
Okay, this job must be very stressful for you in a way.
Um, it is at times because when you're dealing with animals, right, you also have to deal with people. That's
Yeah.
the honest fact because ultimately people are the ones who report you cases,
Okay,
right?
so people are causing stress, animals de-stress you.
I could say that, but a lot of people are very good, honestly
Okay.
speaking. Sometimes it becomes an issue because, see, uh, basically what I do is I rescue animals on the streets, and there's so many other activism cases we take. But basically, inherently, I'm a rescuer. I'm a trained paravet as well, so I have the basic necessity of where I know what to do when there's an emergency, or a basic simple treatment to be done, first aid to be done. So I treat a lot of animals on the streets itself. So people do call for accident cases or some skin issues, poisoning cases, snakes which are caught in fishing nets, tortoises. We do marine rescues as well. So fishing nets, they're basically something called as ghost nets. Sorry. So these nets are basically thrown out by fishermen and they keep on floating, and these fishes, your tortoises get caught in that. So a lot of different issues do come up, but ultimately people only report them. So sometimes people are very nice when you go there, but sometimes people do worked up because every day we have about 5 to 10 cases on an average to attend. Sometimes when you're attending one case here, simultaneously another call comes. But then sometimes people do get worked up. Like for them, it's an emergency. They don't know that we are all already doing something there. So it does get a little tricky at times. But I operate as an individual, so that is where basically the issue lies, because I can't multitask together everything. So sometimes people do get worked up. I know it's ultimately there with in the good interest of the animals, but yes, ultimately as long as the animal is doing good and someone is reporting and things are going good, I think that kind of washes down, all the stress away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, earlier you had mentioned that writing a book is a tricky task for you.
Hmm.
It's because you're a bit bipolar, you had
Hmm.
mentioned.
Hmm.
How do you
Hmm.
deal with your bipolar issue?
Yeah. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder probably about 4.5 years ago. I think it was 2016 or something. Uh, so that's when I think I realized that, I always used to think I'm a little more filmy, whereby, if you're happy, you feel you own the world. When you're sad, you feel like everything is gone for a toss or something like that. But then slowly, when I started reading about these things, then I went to a couple of psychiatrists and everything. Eventually, you get to know what exactly is running down. And it's nothing new, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people go through these things. So yeah, working with animals has been a blessing, honestly speaking. But yeah, I do write, and writing becomes an issue at times, because when you're writing, you're in a flow. It just flows like a stream. You just go on writing. A single day, I've written about 20, 30 pages of a story. But then sometimes when your book gets stuck, it gets stuck for months and years together. The same book that we were talking about got stuck almost for about a year, I think. I couldn't complete it, and forcibly I didn't want to write it, because you lose the interest in it when you forcibly write it, right? You yourself feel, no, this is not right, this is not how it's supposed to be. So yeah, it does obstruct a lot of your thought processes and your physical activities as well. But then working for animals, as I said, has been keeping me sane. It
Okay.
balances out my life. So I haven't relied on medications ever. And I think it's this activity basically that keeps me somehow, floating. Sometimes they say डूबते हुए को तिनके का सहारा काफी है, they say.
Okay.
So when you're going through floods, right, even one banana stem also comes, you just hold on to it, latch onto it. I think working for animals has been a blessing in disguise that way.
Speaking of stress, I want to talk about this incident that happened, I believe, 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Your Instagram account got blocked. Okay, it was removed, right?
Yes, yes,
Any
yes.
idea why that happened?
My problem is my Facebook and Instagram were linked. Okay, and I have always had a few legal issues that have been going on here and there. Because there was a point of time whereby we were fighting a few legal cases as well when it comes to cattle trafficking and everything. So we always had threats and this coming in on Facebook through unknown accounts and internet calls and everything. I personally feel that was the reason how it was taken down. I don't know. Sometimes when someone mass reports your account or something like that. So my Facebook account got taken down. Unfortunately, along with that, my Instagram was linked. So Instagram automatically went off. I had quite a good followers, this thing, but it was very painful because losing followers obviously is painful. But at the same time, there was so much of data that was there. Almost about, I think, 8 years worth of data went off in that.
And the memories.
Of course. But then I had to start refresh. But the data was always backed up. I have a hard drive which I keep all my rescues saved and everything. But yes, when you lose your social media accounts, it is a little pain. But then I had to restart. You always restart. You fall, you get up. That's how it is. But I've caught up. I've slowly caught up now.
Okay. Speaking of cattle mafia,
Hmm.
what are the different activities or illegitimate activities that cattle mafia is involved in?
Cattle mafia, to be honest, is a multi-crore racket that is much bigger than that it seems like. Um I don't want to talk about the people involved, but a lot of people are involved in this. Otherwise, it's not a huge menace to be tackled down. See, this is basically like they portray in your movies and all your mafias and even someone sitting somewhere runs it. But there are a lot of people involved locally. And it's easy money, right? It's very easy. Some you have your minions operating somewhere, these people go and do it, but the money automatic travels to everyone. The problem lies where, Pratham, this money is all unaccounted. It's all cash money. And this money is blood money. And this money travels to different sources. It travels to illegal arms, it travels to drugs, it travels to human trafficking, it travels to a lot of places. Prostitution, so many things are there. People think, oh, aate the. There's nothing beyond this.
Okay.
You need to look beyond what is there. I'll give you a simplest example. There are people who come here for begging, holding baby monkeys.
Okay.
Now it is stopped. At least for the last 2 years, we haven't seen much of them. It's basically a tribal group that comes. They kill the mother monkey and snatch away the babies. Okay, because otherwise a monkey wouldn't let. Okay,
Okay.
that's just the beginning of this. Okay, I'll tell you how deep it goes. So they bring in here, they hold the babies, move around, and people see, oh, cute monkey, this, that, and all. They give money, they give food and everything. See, the monkey's life is already gone because it is eating junk entire day, biscuit, fruities, what, and all it drinks. Second thing is, once the monkey grows up, they don't want it because the cuteness is gone. The monkey starts getting aggressive. They leave it off somewhere. Okay, then they bring in fresh monkeys. Okay, fresh babies. So many of them are killed. First thing. Second thing, the kids who are holding the babies and begging, these kids are also trafficked. These are not the same families. This thing. Someone runs it, he'll be standing somewhere and watching, and these people will be going around. If you give them food, they'll not take. You actually observe that. If you give them food, you'll not take. They'll say, nahi, paisa chahiye, they'll say. Because if they take food, that guy will come and hit them. Okay. So this money again is unaccounted. Okay. So once these kids grow up, God knows where these kids come from. Somewhere all over the India, somewhere these people come from. These kids, once they grow up, they are pushed into something else. The girls are basically pushed into prostitution. Okay. They put up this chopad kind of thing outside the city on the highways and all. They stay there. At that age itself, they are pushed with these highway drivers and everything. All those girls are pushed into prostitution and so many things. And then there are instances in Tamil Nadu and all whereby it has been recorded with proof that these girls, once they attain a certain age, they are sent to Nepal borders and all, whereby they are used for human trafficking, your eyes and so many other things and all, organs and all. So every single thing that we see, right, it's just the bubble on the water that we see, or the iceberg on the water that seems. You go deep, you see there's a huge tunnel and a huge network. Unfortunately, people don't want to be interested. They don't seem to be interested in most of the things. But you need to do your research. You need
Okay.
to talk to people. That is why we keep on yelling again and again and again. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. But people think it's okay. Not a headache, right? Eventually, it comes back to bite you someday. Someday it will come and bite, and bite in your back. But unfortunately, people don't realize it. So they want to be. It's like I don't know. There's some saying, right? Uh, uh, I can't think of it. Like if you avoid anything, it doesn't affect you. It's basically like, but it does. It does.
Indirectly.
It does. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But at the base of their operations, what exactly does cattle mafia do?
See, basically, these people what they do is after about 12, when basically all the traffic everything dies down, especially in the highways and on your roads and all, a lot of straight traffic which keep roaming around. Sometimes even owned cattle also are left out for grazing overnight and all. So these people come out. These people, of course, you can't catch a huge cow or a bull that easy. It's going to be 500, 600 kilos. These people come out with swords, they come out with machetes. Since you can't catch them, they will chop off their legs. They'll just go chop off one leg and the animal bleeds to death. Sometimes they chop off one, two, multiple legs, whatever. It bleeds and it falls somewhere, unable to walk. And then once it is weak, they'll drag it into a vehicle, take that vehicle underneath some bridge somewhere, stop it there, open up the animal, everything, all the waste is dumped into the river. See how so many things are connected, right? And then whatever the meat is obtained, they go and supply it off here and there, here and there. So that money again that comes is all cash money and accounted money. So that's how the circulation happens. But it's very inhuman. See, I as an animal activist, I can only say animals are not meant to be eaten. There's that and everything and all. But animals are not supposed to be killed like this as well, right? Just they are just minding their own business, eating somewhere on the street, and you just go and chop off their legs. Imagine the pain for 2 3 hours. The animal suffers bleeding and it dies such a painful death. I don't think so anybody deserves to die like that.
Hmm.
So that is just the I said tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of things beyond all these things and all. Casa, I remember I was working with the team before. So that time there was a cow rescued from Gurupura Kaikamba whose front both the legs were chopped off. And this cow managed to jump off a cliff. She rolled over, and these people left it, and next the villagers picked up the cow and everything. And also shifted to the shelter. Shaktinagar, we have a shelter
Yeah,
which
animal
Animal
cafes.
Caterers
Yeah.
runs. So they shifted it there. I was a part of their team at that point of time. So there, the pain that we saw of the cow for whatever time she survived, right, was horrible because both the front legs were chopped off, and she eventually started walking on those legs, of course, but it was very painful. And eventually, after about 4 months, we had no idea. She delivered, and I think about couple of weeks later, after she delivered, she died. So people don't see that animals also have the same emotions that we have. For them, it's all about money and quick money and shortcuts and everything. But once you see the world through their eyes, you realize how big of a blunder you have been doing all your life. You know.
Okay. You've not just dealt with killing of cows, but you've also dealt with the rape of a cow.
Hmm.
I mean, a few
Hmm.
years ago, a laborer from
Yes. Yes.
Jharkhand
Yes.
came
Yes.
to Mangalore and he tried to rape a cow.
Yes.
What are the legal implications of this?
See, uh, just like what we have for humans, the same law applies to animals as well. Unnatural sex, it's actually a huge offense. This we are just talking a couple of days back about this incident. I got a mobile recording from some kids who were just playing around. Some students, I think they were the ones who recorded the entire thing. See, unfortunately, what they did is instead of catching hold of this guy, he was using some parachute, this thing, and all to lubricate, and he was penetrating a calf which was tied there. And entire thing was recorded on the mobile. This thing, these guys should have caught him and they should have handed him. These guys caught him, beat him up there, and then that guy ran away. His entire family, whoever was there, a bunch of laborers, they ran off. So when I gave a complaint, the cops got pissed off. Obviously, they were pissed off for both the things. One is because of this guy. Second thing is because of the group of guys who let them go. They're like, why did they have to beat them? And because the video went viral after that. So of course there were two cases filed, one against this guy and one against the bunch of youngsters. Unfortunately, this guy was never caught. I don't know where he's gone. This is the problem, right? When you keep on, we have such a huge network of things happening. He was never caught, but yeah, that was kind of very creepy. But these things do happen on and off, on and off. That is why we keep telling, keep an eye on people who are new around you. You never know who is who. Recently, there was a case in Mumbai whereby a guy who apparently used to feed a lot of dogs in an area, and people used to give him the food. आप खाना दे रहे हो ना, हम भी देते हैं. You feed. One night, someone caught him penetrating a dog, an old dog. So apparently, then he confessed, yeah, I feed them, so I think it is fine and everything and all. So a lot of creepy things do happen around you, especially now they say this is Kali Yuga, so you never know what and all is happening around with mentalities of people getting so sick. It is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, we do have to deal with things like this, which kind of gives you sleepless nights. But then somebody has to do it.
Yeah, you spoke about Kali Yuga,
Hmm.
and recently on your Instagram, you also posted some philosophical post from Mahabharata.
Hmm, hmm,
Are
hmm,
you a very
hmm, hmm.
spiritual and philosophical person?
I not a very religious person, but I do believe in karma.
Okay.
I do believe in doing good. I believe in God. I believe there are energies that surround us. I believe in give good energy and good energy comes back to you. Good karma comes back to you. Not a very I don't want to offend people, but I'm not a very blindly following religious kind of a person. I think what I can do, what is right for me, I do that. Of course, my family is a very religious family, but then I think I'm the odd one out. I'm little on the other side,
Mm.
but I do believe in God. I go to mosque, I go to churches, I go to temples.
Mm.
But then I love all these stories that we get to hear, whatever, be it
Mm.
from Mahabharata or Ramayana or from the Holy Bible. I do like reading stories. Somewhere you feel connected to it. Somewhere deep down line, one story can solve so many issues in your own life. So I do
Mm.
like reading things. But as you said, maybe I'm somewhere little inclined towards spirituality than
Okay.
religion.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about development in Mangalore. There's a lot of economic development going on,
Mm.
a lot of new buildings and apartments
Yes.
being built.
Yes.
What kind of negative effect do you think this will have on our community animals?
It is having a lot of. I think we are still on the safer side compared to places like Bangalore. We always had issues that unemployment and this and that in Mangalore because industries are not there. I think it's a blessing sometimes as well because the more number of people come in, the more development happens. But still, we are supposed to be a smart city, but somewhere smart city is being planned in a dumb way. uh, every place you see, there is interlock, there is cement, trees are chopped off. Around the tree, they build up all this cement, this thing and all. It is sad the way all see. You need to consult people. There are experts in Bangalore. So many people who are experts with all these things, but nobody is consulted. They do what they think is right. uh, it does have a very bad effect. Trees that fall off during monsoons and also you can chop off the branches, trim them in a nice way. Scientifically, you need to do all these things, but people wait till the tree falls and then they root off the entire thing. So a lot of things are there, but yes, as you said, it is causing a lot of effect. Uh, right from your sparrows, sparrows have disappeared. Of course, our mobiles are to be blamed, but obviously the kind of developments we have, uh, birds, dogs, where are the dogs getting food? See, now we have, of course, we have a very nice scientific disposal of garbage and everything and all happening. If we would have some dustbins here and there, the dogs would go pick food from that and eat. Now we don't have that. So where do the dogs go? Dogs rely totally on what we give them. So automatically, okay, development has to happen. You can't stop it. But along with development, I think our development is also important. We need to start thinking, okay, dogs used to get food from these dustbins. Now dustbins are gone. What next? So we should start maybe, at least one dog a day or two dogs a day. If everybody can start doing that, people don't think from that point of view. Most of them think stray dogs do not belong on the streets. So many times this is a common statement. Nimigastu is take the dog and keep it in a house. That's the common statement. So a lot of things are there. As I said, there's a lot of adverse effect, but people need to also. I keep on writing this very often. Along with smart city, we need to become a kind city as well.
Okay.
We are a kind city. Mangalore, I think, is much, much, much better in terms of lot of cities what I have seen. But we need to be a little more kinder. We definitely need to be a little more kinder.
Yes. And you spoke about the declining sparrow population,
Hmm.
and I've seen that you've taken up two projects specifically.
Hmm.
One
Hmm.
is the PVC pipe
Yes. Yes.
project where you make holes for
Yes.
artificial nesting,
Yes.
and the other project is Project Jal where you keep
Yes.
water bowls. How do they work?
Um the first project that we mentioned was Home Sweet Home.
Okay.
It's basically we designed artificial nestings using PVC pipes. Again, PVC pipes were recycled ones; these were not new ones. A lot of people who wanted me to do it in bamboo and everything, but then I wanted the longevity. So PVC pipes obviously are weather waterproof and so many other things. So these were recycled pipes, and what we did was we basically it was about I think about 3 feet length. So we did about three to four nestling places inside. So it was basically like a train compartment inside, right? So we ended up hanging in a lot of different places, and the response was very nice. The problem is what is happening in a lot of urban areas is we used to have our attics and all whereby these birds would come and build nests. Now we do not have all your tiled houses and everything. Right now we have concrete roofs and apartments, and every apartment has put already nets so that birds don't come in, pigeons don't come in, so many things. So birds do not find places to nest, and they end up nesting in places whereby you will find electrical boxes or your AC out on the box that is there outside. Most of these die because of electrocution. The mother dies. Obviously, once the mother dies, the babies are orphaned. So a lot of calls do keep coming. So what we thought was let us make specific places for them. So we targeted specifically sparrows, but a lot of different birds also did come. We have a few places whereby squirrels also have nested in these things. So that was one project whereby we distributed 100 units. I am probably doing the part two of that thing, hopefully this year or not, or probably after the monsoons, which will be done using plywood this time.
Okay.
That would be a totally different thing. Second mention was Project Gel. Project Gel was basically targeted at dogs, cats, birds, most of the birds. Basically, a small bowl made out of cement. We wanted to do it in a mud pot, but then cost was basically a very big difference. We're getting at almost half the price each bowl. So I got about 250 bowls done last year, which were distributed absolutely free of cost. Any of my project which has been done till now, be it reflective collars for dogs, be it bowls for animals, water bowls, be it your nesting units, everything has been given absolutely free of cost. Not 1 rupee has been charged. So yeah, bowls were distributed, and they have gone a lot of places, not just Mangalore, Karkala, Mudbi. A lot of people have taken there as well. Um, this year also we couldn't do it because I'm been involved with some other project for now. There's a cattle thing that is going on, cattle shelter that was destroyed. So I've been very badly held up with that. So I couldn't take up any projects this year. But this year as well, quite a few bowls have been distributed. So yes, that is something that I want to keep doing every year. Hopefully next year some more added things will come up. We might probably do bigger bowls for cattle as well.
Okay.
Something like a bathtub kind of a thing. But only thing is filling the water becomes a responsibility. Someone has to take up the responsibility. Making it and handing it over is our duty. So people have to come forward. That's the thing.
Okay. So you said something about building a cattle shelter.
Hmm.
You're on the process of building a cattle shelter, right? Where exactly is that?
This is the same thing that was mentioned in the news last for almost for about a month. It was there all over news. Kapila Park.
Okay.
The person I know him quite well, Mr. Prakash Shetty. Most of our rescued cattle from the states I have sent there as well to his place. He has about 300 plus cows. Most of these are local cows only. We call them Kapila and all this Malnad Giddas and all. These are all our indigenous breeds. So there's a huge responsibility for us to play because wherever you go and see, you see jerseys or cross jerseys because they give more milk, right? People also want everything. It's all friends with benefit concept only everywhere. Wherever you go, if they give more milk, we want that. Otherwise, local bed and it's like that. So as long as they give more milk, they want that. So this fellow has all local this thing, and he takes care of them in a very nice way. Unfortunately, there was a dispute. The shelter was built on about 37 cents or something, out of which 18 cents was taken over by the government for the Coast Guard Academy, whatever. But then there were a lot of ego issues involved, a lot of things and all happened, and they came and ended up raising down the entire setup itself. So 300 cows were literally on the streets, no food, no water, nothing at all. So on day one when I went, it was a very bad situation because we had seen the place before, right? It was very bad. So then we decided we'll do something about this. On day one, we started sending food and water and this and that and everything, whatever we could. Even now, water is going from the city itself. Every week, 2 tankers, water tankers go from here. Food goes once in a week from here. So we've been sending dry grass and cattle fodder and so many other things, medicines and everything. Um, After a point of time, we were like, no, we need to do a temporary shelter because there was a huge this thing. Recently, if you see, there was a lot of rain and lightning and all one of these evenings. So we decided we are not going to leave them on the street. So we thought, let's do something. So we called the engineer and everything and all. Prakash Bhai called them. There were two estimates that were given. One was for about a 20,000 square feet shelter that was there before itself. That the estimate came up to about 1 CR. So we decided that's not going to happen unless someone comes forward. Until now, nobody's come forward. So we decided at least temporarily we'll do some because monsoons are soon approaching. And every time there's lightning and rains, these cows run around like crazy because they don't know what is happening. And that's at an elevated area. It's almost near the airport. So the lightning is it's very loud. So we didn't want them to run around on the railway tracks from the streets and all. So we decided let's do something. So we planned three different sections, out of which one section is getting done by me. It's almost done now. Almost 80% work is done. The roofing is done. The sheetings is done. We are doing the concrete bed and all now. So I think that will be specifically for mother calves and mothers and calves. So my work is almost done. So the second section is happening now. So the three sections will happen, out of which one section I tried my best to do what I could. So
Okay.
yeah.
All of the projects that you have mentioned requires a lot of money. Does finance become a problem for your activities?
It does become a problem all the time because I do not have a registered trust, neither do I have a team, neither do I have anybody sitting, no, you do the work, we'll write checks for you. It never happens. So most of it is funded on my own, this thing. Smaller projects is fine. You something you manage, but bigger project becomes always essential because this project that we did, like I said, the cattle shelter that is happening, this itself cost me close to about 1.5 lakh rupees. So such big projects becomes a major issue because that is almost an year's earning sometimes. So especially at times like this, whereby the markets are down and the businesses are down, becomes very bad. But then smaller projects, I think it's fairly manageable. But there are sometimes I have a few close friends, especially on Instagram. I have a very good extended family that I always say. People do come forward. I never appeal for funds, but then people themselves get in touch. They say we want to do something, my birthday or something else. Some event particularly. I had a childbirth in my house, so we want to do something. So people do come forward. Of late, in the last 1 year, we have started raising funds. So that's been a little helpful. But otherwise, all these years, this is my 11th year. For the last 10 years, everything has been self funded. So, yeah, on days it becomes very difficult because you have to compromise on something, somewhere personal. But then, how do you not? Because these are needs, right? Medical needs, ultimately, if you don't do it on time, it becomes always an issue.
Yeah. How do you deal with infectious dogs?
Hmm.
You're a rescuer and you said that you have been doing this for what, 10, 11
Hmm,
years now?
hmm, hmm, hmm.
So when you see a dog that's, with pus and blood,
Hmm.
are you ever concerned about your own hygiene?
Not really. Uh, there was this eerie feeling that I used to get when I started off, when I used to see maggots in dogs, because maggots are basically parasites that are supposed to be in a body once the body is dead. Okay, so when you see them crawling all over an animal, you feel that eerie feeling that it's actually on you. Okay, but then now it has become a part and parcel of life. We get maggots cases, I think every week, 3 to 4 cases we do get almost regularly. Yeah, hygiene and everything, we do take our precautions. We do wear hand gloves, we do wear masks. We used to wear masks long back, masks which have come on in the last we used to wear masks before also, cleaning wounds and everything and all. But then we do take our precautions. Calculated risks are taken sometimes, but then we do take our precautions. uh, Once in a year, I take my anti-rabies shots without miss, because when you're handling so many animals, wildlife also, we handle monkeys, bats, and everything who carry the highest amount of rabies. This thing. So we do take our shots, pre bite shots. So every year we take, just to be on the safer side. Just like they say, most of the times it's the leap of faith, but we do take calculated risks.
Yeah.
So not being too overconfident, but at the same time not being underconfident also. You calculate things and you do it. So I think it goes well, because when you're doing something right, as I said, those right energies, good energies do come around and try to help you. So I've been always been a very firm believer. So I think it works out somehow.
Yeah, you need a leap of faith even when you're grabbing a snake or catching a snake. Uh,
Yes.
eh, Sometimes, some of the snakes that you catch are venomous,
Yes.
right? How do you learn how to catch a venomous snake?
Um, when I started off, I was, they say, right, young and stupid. So the fear of getting bitten was very less. Uh, we used to be very adventurous, and like, it's okay, nothing will happen. Dala pachi, pattaga and all everything. And I started off with a technique called head pinning. Head pinning is basically whereby you keep a stick on the head of the snake and then you catch hold of the head. Okay, so that it doesn't bite. But when you start continuously doing these things, right, when you evolve as a rescuer, you start realizing that is the most riskiest thing that can happen, because 1 millisecond is enough for the snake to just slip and turn behind and bite, especially cobras and vipers. Very unpredictable. They wiggle a lot. So eventually I started, evolving, and then I started using sticks. I have equipments and everything and all. Of late, I try as less human contact as possible when it comes to venomous snakes. I use sticks. I just catch hold of the tail, hold the stick, and slowly guide into a bag or something. Non-venomous snakes, of course, even if you get bitten, couple of days, the pain lasts, it goes off. That's a different thing. But I think it basically depends on you what kind of a rescuer if you are. Like, if you keep getting bitten by an animal or a snake again and again, it means you're doing something horribly wrong. I've seen a lot of people posting pictures. Oh, I got bitten by a snake today. I got bitten by a dog today. It's not something to be proud of. You're doing something wrong. You're not either understanding the body language of the animal, or you're trying to show off, or you're being too overconfident, which is wrong, because today it was a non-venomous snake. Tomorrow it could be a cobra. Tomorrow it could be a viper. So you might end up losing a limb. You might end up losing your life. So I think, in my honest opinion, I think every time you deal with a snake or any rescue for that matter, you should deal with it like as if it's your first case. Go there, have all the confidence, but also at the same time, don't be overconfident. Just make sure you focus, do it, come back. A lot of people get bitten when they're overconfident. That is the problem.
Snakes are a very, no, they're a very beautiful creature, and they're very important to our ecosystem as well.
Yes.
And we see sometimes people pouring milk right on top of the
Yes.
snake.
Yes. Yes.
And a snake's mouth is usually closed,
Yes.
and the nose is open, and the
Yes.
milk
Yes.
can go
Yes.
down its.
Yes. Yes.
What can happen to the snake in that case?
We do this almost a week before Nagapanchami happens. We do kind of what do you say? Something like campaign whereby we try to spread around the message, because these things still do happen in a lot of places. People pouring milk in Nagabanas, people pouring this thing. There are specifically people designed for this. What these people do is they go on hunting for snakes maybe 1 or 2 months before Nagapanchami. Cobra specifically. They go catch snakes on the burrows, plug their teeth off using your whatever equipments, and then that snake cannot bite. Okay, so they put them in a bag and they keep. On the day of Naga Panchami, they'll come and sit in front of temples with the baskets. So that snake cannot bite you. The way they would have plugged the teeth, right, it would all have been infected inside. There's been no food, no water for almost a month or something. So the snake is helpless. So the moment they open the basket, it stands up. So at that point of time, not just milk, even if you pour beer in its mouth, it will drink. Okay, because it is so thirsty, it hasn't had water, it hasn't had food. So these people misuse it. They say live snake puja only 1,000 rupees only. Okay, this happens in a lot of remote places. Nothing on till now in Mangalore of late, nothing has happened. But see how religious beliefs of people are misused. Someone else is making money from morning till evening. 1,000 people come and give 1,000 rupees to that person. Okay, and once his work is done, he'll bag that snake, throw in some gutter, and he'll walk off. Okay. Second thing, as I said, pouring milk. Snakes do not drink milk. Second thing, pouring milk in Nagabanas. The Nagabana, this thing is basically constructed by termites and ants. This mud is very soft, very thin mud. Every time you pour some milk or water in it, it becomes soggy. ಕೆಸರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. So that thing, if the snake is there inside, God forbid, that thing goes and settles down its nostril. I think 1 or 2 minutes, the snake chokes to death. So all these things need to be taught in schools, basically. Not you, no point in teaching people now. Very few people understand. They're like, oh, how can you talk about this, how can you talk about
They
that?
become very sensitive.
Yes, yes, people do not think from the scientific point of view. That is again sad, but there are a lot of people whom we have convinced and this and that and all. But it does need, every year you need to keep refreshing. Every there are a lot of people who get offended, start this thing, what do you need, what do you know, what do this thing and all. So there's no point in explaining things to people like that. But then every time one person understands what you're trying to tell, you're somehow still saving 1 or 2 lives of those snakes. So yes, India is a beautiful country whereby we worship a lot of animals and everything, which is very much needed. Because since, see, in Mangalore itself, if I say, we do Nagaradhane. So people don't kill cobras. Other snakes, yes. If it comes inside your house, they'll bring a stick, they'll bring a stone. Of late, it has come down. But that's the first thing. Vipers and all, if they come, all undo, they'll pick up a stick or something and all. Cobras, they don't. So similarly, because of this particular belief, those snakes are safe. So that is one good part, whereby a lot of animals are safer here. But we should also start respecting other animals also around. Hopefully, that way more animals will get saved, I think.
I think a lot of animals suffer because of our need for entertainment and worship.
True.
There are elephants in the temple, zoos, circus.
True, true, true.
And again, what are your opinion on this zoos and circus?
Zoos used to be very fascinating as a kid. Like, you love animals, right? So you go to the zoo and like, it was very late when I realized, oh, these are all basically jails, right? Why are these animals here? What are they doing? They're supposed to be the jungle. I remember going to Mysore Zoo. I'm fascinated about giraffes and zebras and this and that and everything. And even here also I've gone a couple of times. But then over a period of time, I started realizing, no, this is not the place for animals. I try and put it every now and then whenever possible. Don't go, don't go. Don't. A lot of people have stopped going, of course. There are a lot of other things also, even in the cities also. If you see, there are a lot of things around as well. Apart from zoos, as you said. But what can you do? You can only ask people. You can only request people not to do it, not to go. But these are basically jails. Yeah, this is basically jails for animals who have not even committed a crime. They spend their entire life there. Captivity is not the place for a tiger or a lion to be there. It is basically you're keeping them so that you can earn some revenue for your zoo, and some people can come and just watch them and take pictures and go. That's it. It's basically a cheap form of entertainment. That is not the way. That is not at all the way for an animal to be kept.
Yes, and for our entertainment, we even burst
Yeah,
crackers.
yeah.
And recently we had Holi. And even that also affects stray animals in a terrible way, right?
It does. See, a lot of festivals kind of are only festivals for our happiness. Be it whatever, be it Bakrid, be it Easter, be it whatever, Diwali, everything. Animals are slaughtered at Bakrid and Easter. So many of them are slaughtered. Mass slaughters happen, and then you see Deepavali, whereby it's supposed to be a beautiful festival, but then less the crackers, it becomes even more beautiful. But then you can't stop things from happening. People do get annoyed and pissed and everything and all. But then I think slowly things are changing. See, the government also of late has started coming up with orders whereby you can't blow so many more decibels, crackers and this and that and everything and all. So yeah, we are in a situation whereby we are constantly fighting against situations whereby people having asthmas are having issues.
Yes.
This year Corona was there, so I think slowly people will start realizing, and maybe hopefully things will get better.
Okay. How come you're wearing that T-shirt? Our planet, theirs too.
This basically has been something that I try, and this is basically a topic I usually go to schools and colleges for. We do something called humane education program, whereby we try and go and talk to the younger crowds. It's easier to convince the younger crowds than talk to someone else. So they imbibe in their, that becomes a part of the character. So this is basically the topic's name wherever I go. It's basically like our planet, theirs too. So start respecting them, loving them, protecting them. You don't lose anything. There's nothing to lose. One packet of biscuit every day you feed them, there's nothing you lose. One bowl of water you keep in front of your house or in your terrace, in front of your office, there's nothing to lose. Instead of poisoning those rats with those easy available cakes and all, put a cage, catch the rat, and leave it off in somewhere else. You lose nothing. So there are a lot of alternates to a lot of things. People need to be sensitized. Inherently, honestly speaking, all of us are born very kind. You see a small baby, you just act like you're crying, and the baby starts getting worried. You see the expressions of the baby. But I think slowly we stop thinking on our own. We are taught from someone else's point of view, be it religion, be it something else, some book someone has written, and everything and all. So our thinking stops. So
Yes.
someone else's thinking is controlling us. It's basically like those puppets that dance, right? We start doing that. So we need to be sensitized. That's it. Eventually, things do change. We have seen so many people who used to hate dogs at one point of time. Slowly now, these people have started feeding dogs. So I think that sensitivity is all that is needed a little bit here and there. Ultimately, as I said, it belongs to everyone. When the world was created, when the universe was created, God created us all equal. We are all born naked. We all die naked. In between, what we do determines us what happens. So they say, right, next janam, whatever, all these things. And I think that has people have to remember that. Maybe you have another birth or whatever, another world, whereby what you do here counts there.
Okay.
So do as good as possible, as much as possible. You never know what all these good things where they take you after that.
Okay. I want to conclude this podcast with one last question.
Hmm.
How can we donate to your cause or make your life a little easier?
That would be very kind of you. Thank you so much. We regularly require bandaging material, veterinary medications, a lot of human medications also we do use. A lot of these gauze, cottons, spirit, a lot of these things we do use. Then dog food, cat food, these things could be donated. People who specifically want to donate things, these would be the things. If someone wants to donate money, they could send funds as well. I'll give you the this thing, account details on the number, everything
Yeah.
and all after that.
We'll put it on the video
Please,
description.
please. Thank you so much. So these are the basic few things. If not anything, if someone is not really looking at monetary help or something else, simplest thing that you could do is feed one animal a day. That's it. Make it an agenda of your life whereby one dog every single day, carry a 5 rupees biscuit packet in your pocket every month. Even one day 5 rupees a packet you're doing every month, I think you spend about 150 rupees, which you don't even get a good coffee anywhere if you go to these malls and all these days. So you lose nothing out of it. Even if that is difficult, use some used old vessel or something, put water in it and keep it on your terraces. You're saving so many lives out of it, the birds, because so many birds animals die of dehydration itself in this harsh weathers. So all these simple little things we can do. Furthermore, to say, if you want, you can avoid buying leather, avoid buying silk, avoid. Of course, I don't want to talk on about meat eating because people will become more annoyed. But then silk, leather, there's so many things. These things are not really needed. We can survive without even these things as well. So we can slowly start looking at alternatives.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank
It was a pleasure, Tausif.
Same here, Pratham. Thank you so much for having me over. I look forward to be associated with you guys for in the longer run.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.